The morning began with smiles that felt too wide and voices that sounded too sweet. My name is Amina. I am a mother, and that day I trusted my family. We were standing outside my parents' old green pickup truck as the sun climbed slowly into the sky. The air was cool and fresh, the kind that makes you breathe deep without thinking. Birds sang from the trees, and the mountains in the distance looked calm and welcoming, like sleeping giants. My son Kito, who was 6 years old, stood beside me. He wore a red sweater that was a little too big for him and brown shorts that reached his knees. His hair was cut short, neat like I always kept it, and his eyes were bright with excitement. He carried a small blue backpack with a broken zipper. Inside it were biscuits, a plastic water bottle, and his favorite toy car. "Mom," he said, tugging my hand, "Grandpa said we will see the clouds today." I smiled down at him. "Maybe we will," I said softly. My father stood near the truck, tall and strong, even though his hair had turned gray. He wore a brown jacket, black trousers, and old hiking boots. His face was serious, but his eyes did not meet mine for long. My mother was different. She moved quickly, smiling too much. She wore a bright yellow dress with flowers and tied her hair back with a red scarf. Her lips kept stretching into a smile that never reached her eyes. My younger sister, Zola, leaned against the truck. She wore tight jeans, a black jacket, and shiny white shoes that did not look right for a mountain hike. Her long hair fell straight down her back, smooth and well-combed. She kept checking her phone, then slipping it into her pocket when she noticed me looking. "You took too long, Amina," she said, laughing lightly. "We almost left you." Her words were a joke, but my chest felt tight. This hiking trip was my mother's idea. "It will bring the family together," she had said the night before. "We need healing. Healing." That word had stayed in my head all night like a buzzing insect. We had not been close for years. After my husband died, things changed. My parents said they wanted to help, but their help came with sharp words and cold looks. Zola had always looked at me like I was standing in her way. Still, when they invited me and Kiddo, I said yes, because family is family, I told myself. We began the hike just after sunrise. The mountain path was narrow and rocky, lined with tall trees and thick bushes. The ground was damp, and the smell of earth filled the air. The higher we walked, the quieter it became. Even the birds seemed to disappear. Kito walked ahead, hopping from stone to stone. "Slow down," I called gently. Zola laughed. "Let him be free, Amina. You worry too much." She walked closer to Kito, placing her hand on his shoulder like a caring aunt. I watched her closely. Her nails were painted dark red, sharp and long. My mother walked beside me. "You look tired," she said. "Motherhood is hard without a man." Her words stung, but I stayed quiet. My father led the way. He did not speak much. When he did, it was only to say things like, "This way," or "Be careful." After some time, my phone buzzed once in my pocket, then went silent. I checked it. No signal. My mother noticed. "Good," she said quickly. "No distractions today." She smiled again. My heart beat faster. We walked for another 30 minutes before reaching a wide open space. The trees moved apart, and suddenly the land fell away in front of us. The mountain dropped down into a deep valley, covered in green and shadow. Clouds floated low, almost close enough to touch. There was a stone ledge at the edge, strong and flat, clearly made for people to stand and look. "It's beautiful," Kito whispered. "Yes," my father said. "Come closer." I stepped forward slowly, holding Kito's hand. The wind brushed against my face, cool and sharp. "Stand right there," my mother said, pointing. "The light is perfect." Zola moved to Kito's other side. "Let me help him see," she said, smiling. Something inside me screamed. I wanted to step back. I wanted to pull Keto away and leave, but before I could move, it happened. My father shoved me hard from behind. My mother grabbed my arm and pulled. Zola pushed Keto with both hands. The world tipped. I did not scream. I could not. I only felt air rushing past my ears and my heart jumping into my throat. I twisted my body and reached out, grabbing Keto's sweater as we fell. We did not fall straight down. We crashed onto a steep slope below the ledge. My body rolled over rocks and dry branches. Pain exploded in my side and shoulder. My head hit something hard, and bright lights filled my eyes. Keto rolled beside me. His small body bounced once, then stopped when a thick tree root caught him. Everything went quiet. Above us, shadows moved. Oh my God! My mother's voice called out. They slipped. My father shouted, loud and clear, Amina, can you hear us? My lungs burned. I could barely breathe. Every part of me hurt. Keto crawled toward me, his face dirty, his lip bleeding, but his eyes were calm. Too calm for a child. He leaned close and whispered, his voice shaking just a little. Mom, don't move yet. I looked at him, confused and afraid. He placed his small hand gently over my mouth. Please, he whispered, play dead. Footsteps sounded above us. My father's voice changed. It dropped, cold and sharp. I can't see them well, he said. Are they? Then Zola spoke. Her voice was clear, calm, cruel. She said, if she's still breathing, I'll go down and finish it. And in that moment, as I lay broken on the mountain, listening to my own sister plan my death, I understood one terrible truth. This was not an accident. An evil had already shown its face. I stayed completely still. Every part of my body screamed in pain, but I did not move. I did not cry. I did not even breathe too deeply. I remembered Keto's words and held onto them like a rope. Play dead. Above us, stones shifted. Dirt fell down the slope and landed on my arm. I wanted to pull away, but I forced myself not to react. My eyes stayed half-closed, unfocused, like I was gone from this world. Keto lay pressed against my side. His small body shook, but he stayed quiet. He tucked his face into my chest, the way he did when he was scared of thunder. I could feel his heart beating fast, like a trapped bird. I don't hear anything, my father said from above. Maybe they are gone. My mother sighed loudly. We must be sure. Accidents get questions. Zola laughed softly. Relax, she's weak. She always was. Her words cut deeper than the rocks had. Footsteps came closer. I felt someone sliding down the slope. A shadow fell over my face. I could smell perfume, sharp and sweet. Zola's perfume. The same one she wore to weddings and funerals. She stood very close. I felt her foot nudge my leg. Nothing. She nudged harder. Still nothing. She's breathing, she said quietly. My heart froze. Then Keto did something I will never forget. He let his body go loose. His arm slipped from my chest and fell into the dirt. His head rolled to the side. His mouth opened just a little, the way sleeping children look when they are very tired. Zola leaned closer. She looks dead enough, she said after a moment. The child, too. She paused. Still, she added, I hate leaving loose ends. She reached out. I felt her fingers touch my neck. I stopped breathing. Seconds passed, long, heavy seconds. Then my mother's voice called from above, sharp and nervous. Zola, someone is coming up the trail. Zola pulled her hand away quickly. Fine, she snapped. Let's go. I heard her climb back up. Gravel slid, branches snapped, then the footsteps moved away. My father spoke loudly again, acting. Oh God, this is terrible. My mother cried, fake tears filling her voice. We should go get help. Their voices faded as they walked away. When I could no longer hear them, When the mountain was silent again, I let out a long, shaking breath. Quito lifted his head slowly. "Mom?" he whispered. "I'm here," I breathed back. "I'm here." He wrapped his arms around my neck and pressed his face into my skin. I felt warm tears soak my shirt. "You were very brave," I said softly. "You saved us." "I heard Aunt Zola talking yesterday," he whispered. She said you were in the way." My stomach turned cold. "What else did she say, my love?" I asked gently. "She said when you were gone, Grandpa and Grandma would help her with the land, and she would be rich." The land. My parents owned a large piece of mountain land near the river. After my husband died, my father had added my name to the papers for safety. Zola had been angry ever since. I closed my eyes. Greed had pushed us off the mountain. I tried to move my arm. Pain shot through my body, sharp and deep. I bit my lip to keep from screaming. "We can't stay here," I whispered. "We must get help." Quito nodded, his face serious. Slowly, carefully, I shifted my body. My ribs felt broken. My shoulder burned, but my legs could still move. We were stuck halfway down the slope, hidden by bushes and rocks. Above us was too steep. Below us, the mountain softened into trees. "Down," I said. "We go down." Quito stood first. He reached for my hand. "I will help you," he said. Step by step, inch by inch, we moved. Quito went first, showing me where to place my feet. He held branches aside and waited when I needed to rest. The mountain seemed endless. Time passed strangely. The sun moved higher. Sweat mixed with blood and dirt on my skin. My dress was torn. Quito's sweater was ripped at the elbow. At last, we reached flatter ground. I collapsed beside a tree, breathing hard. "We need people," I said. "A road, a village," Quito pointed. "I hear water," I listened. He was right. A river flowed somewhere ahead. We followed the sound until we reached a narrow dirt road. My knees gave out, and I fell to the ground. A motorbike appeared in the distance. I lifted my hand weakly. The rider stopped. He was a young man wearing a blue jacket and a helmet. His eyes widened when he saw us. "Mother of God," he said. "What happened?" "They pushed us," I whispered. "My family." He helped us onto his bike and rode fast toward the nearest clinic. As the wind hit my face, one thought burned in my mind. They thought we were dead, and that mistake would become the truth that destroyed them. The clinic smelled of medicine, soap, and warm dust. White walls surrounded me as nurses lifted me onto a narrow bed. Bright lights hurt my eyes, and my head spun. My body felt heavy, like it was made of stone. A nurse cut away my torn dress and covered me with a clean sheet. Another nurse gently cleaned the blood from Quito's face and hands. "Stay with me, Mama," a woman said softly. She wore a white uniform and had her hair tied back neatly. Her voice was calm, like a song meant to slow a racing heart. I tried to speak, but only a whisper came out. "My son, he is safe," she said quickly. "He is very brave." Quito stood beside the bed, holding my hand tightly. His small fingers were dirty, but warm and real. He wore a borrowed shirt from the clinic, too big for him, with sleeves that covered his hands. His eyes followed every movement around me. He did not cry. He watched. A doctor came in. He was tall, with kind eyes and a short gray beard. He wore glasses that kept sliding down his nose. "You have broken ribs," he said gently. "Your shoulder is badly hurt, but you are lucky." Very lucky. Lucky. I thought of the mountain, of the push, of Zola's cold voice. "I want to talk to the police," I said. The doctor nodded. "They are already on their way." An hour later, 2 police officers entered the room. One was a woman with short hair and a serious face. She wore a dark blue uniform and black boots. The other was a man, older, with a notebook in his hand. They listened quietly as I spoke. I told them everything: the hike, the smiles, the push, the voices above the slope, Zola's words. Quito stood beside me and spoke too. His voice was small but clear. He told them what he heard his aunt say the day before. He told them how she checked my neck. The female officer's face tightened. "This was no accident," she said. "They took photos of my injuries. They took my clothes in a bag. They asked many questions. I answered them all. By evening, they left." Quito slept in a chair beside my bed, curled up like a cat. A nurse placed a blanket over him. I watched his chest rise and fall. Each breath felt like a gift. The next morning, my parents arrived. They walked into the room slowly, acting shocked and sad. My mother wore black, her hair loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were red, but I could see no tears. My father held her arm, his face tight and stiff. "Oh, Amina," my mother cried. "Thank God you're alive." I said nothing. Zola stood behind them. She wore a white blouse and blue jeans. Her hair was pulled back into a neat ponytail. Her face was pale, her lips pressed together. She did not look at me. An officer stood near the door. "We need to ask you some questions," the officer said. My mother's smile shook. Of course. They were taken outside. Through the open window, I could hear raised voices. My father sounded angry. My mother sounded afraid. Zola said nothing. Minutes later, the officers returned. "Your parents are not under arrest at this time," the female officer said quietly. "But your sister is being held for questioning." Zola's head snapped up. "What?" "You were heard threatening the victim," the officer said. "And the child confirms it." Zola's eyes turned to Quito. For the first time, she looked afraid. Days passed. My body slowly healed. Each breath hurt less. My shoulder was placed in a sling. Quito stayed close to me at all times. He did not want to be alone. The truth moved slowly, like a river after rain. The police searched the mountain. They found footprints. They found marks on the stone ledge. They found messages on Zola's phone. Messages about land, about money, about no more obstacles. My parents were called in again. This time, they did not leave. One evening, an officer came to my room. "They confessed," she said. "All of them." I closed my eyes. "They planned it," she continued. "They believed no one would survive. They thought the mountain would hide their crime." Quito squeezed my hand. "But the truth does not stay buried," she said softly. A week later, I was strong enough to leave the clinic. We stayed with a kind woman from the village. Her name was Mama Njeri. She wore long skirts and tied her gray hair into a bun. Her house smelled of wood smoke and tea. "You are safe here," she said. One afternoon, as Quito played outside, Mama Njeri sat beside me. "Evil plans fall apart," she said. "They always do. Truth is patient." I looked at the mountains in the distance. They stood tall and silent, and they had spoken for us. The courtroom was quiet, but my heart was loud. It beat hard inside my chest as I sat on a wooden bench, my back straight, my injured arm still resting in a sling. I wore a simple blue dress Mama Njeri had given me. My hair was braided neatly and pulled back from my face. I wanted to look calm. I wanted to look strong. Quito sat beside me. He wore a clean white shirt and dark trousers. His hair was freshly trimmed, and his small shoes dangled above the floor as he swung his legs gently. He held my uninjured hand and did not let go. Across the room, my family sat on the other side. My father looked smaller than I remembered. His shoulders were bent, and his gray hair looked thinner. He wore a plain brown jacket and kept his eyes on the floor. My mother sat stiffly beside him. She wore a dark dress and wrapped a scarf tightly around her head. Her lips were pressed together, and her hands shook slightly in her lap. Zola sat at the end. She no longer looked confident or proud. She wore a faded gray dress. Her hair, once smooth and shiny, was pulled back roughly, with loose strands falling around her face. Her eyes darted around the room, restless and sharp. When the judge entered, everyone stood. The judge was an older woman with silver hair and firm eyes. She wore a black robe and moved with calm authority. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady. "We are here to hear the truth," she said. The first witness was the police officer. She spoke about the mountain, the marks on the stone, and the messages found on Zola's phone. She spoke slowly, carefully, leaving no room for doubt. Then the doctor spoke. He described my injuries and said clearly, "These wounds were not caused by a simple fall." My parents were called next. My father stood, his hands trembling. "It was supposed to look like an accident," he said quietly. "Zola convinced us. She said it was the only way." My mother began to cry. "We didn't think the child would survive," she whispered. My stomach twisted. Zola jumped to her feet. "They agreed," she shouted. "They wanted the land too." The judge raised her hand. "Sit down." And it was my turn. I stood slowly. Pain moved through my side, but I did not stop. I looked at the judge, then at the room. They smiled at me. I said, "They called it a family trip. They pushed my son and me off a mountain." My voice shook, but I continued. "My son saved us. He heard the truth. He knew when to stay silent." The judge nodded. Quito was asked to speak. He stood on a small stool. His hands shook, but his voice did not. "Aunt Zola said my mommy was in the way," he said. "She said the mountain would keep secrets." The room was silent. Zola sank back into her chair. After a long pause, the judge spoke. "Greed blinded you," she said, "and you forgot that truth always finds a voice." The decision was made. Zola was found guilty of planning the crime. My parents were found guilty of helping her. As they were led away, my mother looked at me one last time. I did not look back. Outside, the sun was bright. Quito looked up at me. "Is it over, Mom?" I knelt slowly and hugged him. "Yes," I said. The truth won, and for the first time since the mountain, I felt free. Life became quiet after the trial. Not empty, not lonely, just quiet, like the soft moment after a storm when the sky is still wet, but the air feels clean. Quito and I moved into a small house near the river, not far from Mama Neri's home. The house had a tin roof that sang when it rained, and a wooden door that creaked when you opened it. It was ours. I wore simple dresses now, loose and comfortable. My hair stayed in neat braids that I tied back with a cloth. My body still carried scars, and sometimes my ribs ached when the weather changed. But I was alive, stronger than before. Tito grew lighter again. He laughed more. He ran along the riverbanks, his feet dusty and free. He wore bright shirts and shorts with patched knees. His hair curled as it grew, and his eyes held a quiet wisdom that did not belong to a child his age. People in the village treated him with respect. "That boy has a brave heart," they said. One evening, we walked to the river together. The water moved slowly, shining gold in the sunset. "Mom," Quito asked, "why did they do it?" I thought for a long moment. "Because they chose greed over love," I said. "And when people do that, they forget who they are." He nodded, as if he understood more than I expected. Weeks later, a letter arrived. The land was now fully in my name. The court had decided it should never return to those who tried to take life for it. I stood on the mountain again one morning, but this time I did not feel fear. The wind touched my face gently. The mountain had not been our enemy. Evil had been. I held Quito's hand. "We survived," he said. "Yes," I answered. And we told the truth. As we walked away, the mountain stood behind us silent, tall, and watching. And I knew this would be the story we lived by. Moral lesson: sometimes the people who hurt us are the ones we trust the most. But remember this, the truth never stays hidden forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video so more people can hear it. Share it with someone who believes that justice always finds its way. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African stories about courage, betrayal, and hope. Until next time, stay strong, because evil plans always collapse under truth.